Hello, and welcome to the More Cheese Less Whiskers podcast. My name's Dean Jackson, and today we're talking with Mark Evans from Wisconsin. And Mark has a really great business in that he helps people, entrepreneurs, $1 to $5 million-ish companies, build and deploy sales teams to grow their businesses. And we had a really great discussion about the impact of what he does, the result of what he does versus the mechanism that he uses to do it. A lot of times people who are helping people do things in B2B kind of environments, or even in consumer environments, focus on the mechanism, the course, the training, the product, what they actually get, more than the result of what it actually is producing. And so we had a really great discussion that went all the way through focusing on what it would mean to focus exclusively on the result that he's able to create. And I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. So here we go. Mark Evans.
Dean Jackson, this is awesome.
Here it is. We've
Wow.
all been waiting.
Well, I have. I don't know about you. But, man, I'm so excited to be here, Dean. This is such a thrill for me. So thank you so much for having me on.
So great. Well, I can't wait to hear what you are up to. And we got the whole hour here to see what we can do.
Sounds great.
Why don't we start with the whole, just the Mark Evans story so far, and what we're working on, and what we're trying to, what we want to focus on today.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, first, Dean, I've been listening to this show as well as to I Love Marketing for a long time. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for the value that you put out in this world. It's really helped me in my business for a long time. Yeah, so thank you. I really appreciate that.
That's awesome.
But my story, so I come from a family of entrepreneurs, but it took me a couple of years to really work up the courage to start my own business. And so back in November of last year, actually, I broke out on my own and started my own sales coaching and consulting company. I had worked with a lot of very high growth and fast growing sales teams and organizations throughout the past decade or so. And over that time, I really started to see why some companies grow their sales team and their sales force and grow sales and grow revenues, and why some companies hadn't. And with my family owning a small business and ultimately selling it, and my wife being involved in a family business as well, I just felt that, hey, some of this recipe and this formula that I'm figuring out for these fast-growing sales teams needs to go to other companies. And so I started to work with one company, moonlighting and as a side hustle, and one turned into two, and two turned into four, and things just progressed here. So I've been in business since November of last year. And I work with companies that are looking primarily to either start their first sales team. So the entrepreneur is currently the chief bottle washer, the marketing department, the salesperson, and is, also the janitor too.
The self-milking cow, as we talked about. Right.
Yep. They're
trying to do it all.
Yeah, they're trying to do it all. And so the companies that I tend to work with are ones where the entrepreneur is they're ready to start their own sales team. They're ready to hand off that follow-up and prospecting and, quote generation and stuff like that to a salesperson. And so I help them build the systems that it takes to really understand from a cultural perspective, what type of salesperson do you need, to setting up the compensation structure, the recruiting apparatus where we're going to find the sales superstar, and then how to onboard someone. And then I also train companies and teams on how to more effectively reach out to prospects and close more sales and be more effective in their presentation and sales, sales environment, sales meetings, things like that.
Right. Awesome. So where are you? What part of the country are you?
I'm about 35 miles northwest of Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay. All right. And are these companies that you're working with, are they like in Wisconsin local companies, or are you working with people all over?
Yeah, they're all local at this point. They're all primarily within southeastern Wisconsin, but I'd really like to expand that focus eventually.
Well, the thing is, you're doing all the right moves in terms of, you got one, you've spent your whole life up to this point getting the body of experience that you have, realizing that you've developed your own ideas and your own methods for doing things, and they seem to be working pretty well in your own family's business, and you start to think, I think I can help other people with this. So you get one person and successfully help that person, and that turns into two and four. Like you said, you're doing all the right things to create what I call your scale-ready algorithm. And that means your ability to take your method and apply it to somebody and get consistently repeatable result. And that, once you've got that documented and polished and to the point where you can now show somebody else how to show somebody else to implement your system, now you're on your way, right? Because that's the thing, is you are the one who's been able to get that result. The secret to really scaling this is going to be your ability to show other people how to show other people to get the results, right? In Indianapolis or something, right? That somebody's got to be the opportunity for somebody like you to do that. What kind of companies are you working with? What is the ideal kind of person for you, and what kind of outcome are you able to create for them?
Yeah, so the industry, I've been, I guess, kind of diverse from an industry perspective. So I work with companies that create SaaS products and software for like the healthcare system, as well as like background checking. I've also worked with companies that are commercial real estate firms, as well as like personal realtors or real estate companies that want to grow. And so there's kind of a variety of industries here, but kind of the common thread of the entrepreneur that I'm seeing is, right, they're overwhelmed. They want to grow, but they don't kind of know where to go or what to do next. And that's been, I guess, the like mental, similarity between the entrepreneurs that I've been working with.
And so what's your first step? Can you walk me through one of the success stories that you've had?
Yeah. So most, or I should say just about all of my contacts and all of my current clients have basically come from me working and milking my network. So what I've been able to do is just start reaching out and having conversations with a lot of people that are in my network that I've either done work with, or they know either the companies I've worked at in the past and have got results for. Typically the first conversation is a relatively warm one, and I sit down and I've got 10 or 12 questions that I like to ask each and every single time to really understand where they currently at, where do they want to go, what's kind of holding them back from that, and I'm usually able to kind of dial into what they need to do from a sales perspective. And so I just, in that first meeting, which usually lasts about 45 minutes or an hour, just try to give them as much information, as much advice, and as much free content that I've created as possible. And that's usually worked out for me. They may not say yes right away, but they'll say yes within a couple of weeks. And then a good situation, one that comes to mind, is I'm working with a company that wants to grow from their current team has about 12. They want to get up to about 100 salespeople. So right now we're really working through the process of what's the playbook, right? What's the one playbook where all of the best tricks, tips, techniques that their 12 salespeople are currently using right now, how can we bring that all into like one document, one central hub, so that the best practices are used every single time? So we have a scalable sales team here and scalable sales model.
Gotcha. And what kind of impact does that have on their bottom line, or how do you measure the success of that?
Yeah, so that specific example, it's a work in progress. So it's been difficult to try to nail down the actual like revenue numbers. But for that one, and as I continue to tabulate this up, just with some of the like different outreach formulas we've put together and sales methodology we've put together, they've been able to close anywhere from like $35K sales to up to $75,000 sales that they wouldn't have done before, or they wouldn't have been able to do previously.
Nice.
I think I need to do a better job of really documenting where are we starting at, and then what's the impact.
Yeah, and that's, I think, going to go a long way if you can So that way you know kind of what the result that you're able to deliver for people. I say it a lot that part of the thing when you're really thinking this through to really figure out what the actual product, you're productizing a service that you're offering basically, what the actual outcome is. And one of the questions that I always ask people is, what would you do if you only got paid if they get the result? And it's a clarifying question in that it forces you to see what the important things are that need to get done to actually get the result. And it also helps you realize what is the result that you're able to create. And so when you look at it, that anytime people are, exchanging money for something, especially in this context, it's a no-brainer that the result is that it's going to be more money, that they're going to have a ROI on the money that they spend with you, and that your working with you is going to be a faster, easier, more certain path to the profits than figuring it out on their own. You've figured out some ways to make that go faster for them. Sounds like.
Yeah, kind of the concept, right, of selling money at a discount almost.
Well, that's exactly it. So, do you have a sense of what that could be? Because often the reason I ask it is because a lot of times especially in starting up, people are more clear on what their process is, or what their method is, or the way that they deliver it, their course or their consulting process, without it being as focused on or clear on the result. And so you end up kind of selling the process, or selling the curriculum or the training itself, without really the focus being the end result,
Yeah.
So I wonder, so if you said that, like, what is the result that you could create for people?
Yeah, I think the result that really fires me up the most, and it seems like the most successful clients that I've had, it has really been from taking them from, hey, we don't really have a professional sales organization, to we now have a sales company, right? So it's the entire process of giving them the sales. I call it my 90-day sales blueprint. It's really the entire
of
how to go from nobody in sales, right? I'm the entrepreneur trying to do all the sales stuff, to in 90 days, I'm going to have a salesperson that's on their path to 7-figure selling and 7-figure sales. I feel like that's the best, that's what gets me fired up. That's what gets my customers really fired up. And I feel like that's what I can deliver the best results on.
That's so awesome. So have you done that? Had that successfully happen yet?
Yeah, so so I started off as really, it was like a one-to-one model where I would meet with a company, and then I would talk them through this curriculum and go back, and it would take a while. And I just recently started putting together videos and an online training course where I can effectively deliver this, more, I guess, through the internet and just through at a little larger scale. Now, I haven't been able to launch that yet, as I'm still working through that, but that's my end goal, is that the ability to broadcast that to a much larger network.
Yeah. And are you helping hire the salesperson? So they don't have one yet? Is that the...
Yeah, I'm not personally going out and interviewing and recruiting for people, but I'm showing a business owner how they should go out and actually recruit. What's the job description that they should write? And I'll help review the job description. There's homework elements of it. I'll help them review the job description and the compensation package, but I'm not actually recruiting and knocking on doors for it.
I gotcha. Okay. And so when you look at the way that you work with them, is it something that would be done in a group, or is it something that you do one-on-one with companies?
Yeah, I guess I'd be curious to get your feedback. What I've been thinking of, Dean, and launching with this is they, of course, would have the online modules and they'd have the online education. But I'd like to almost have a hybrid where there's elements of that group, kind of that mastermind, right? Get everybody on a Zoom webinar where they're all thinking alike and we're going through the wins as well as the challenges. But then also an element of individual coaching too, where I would see every 2 weeks or every month having a 45-minute call just with me, where we're just taking a deep dive into your problems, your situation, et cetera.
Gotcha. Okay. And when you, how quickly can it happen for someone? Like how quickly can you see getting a result for someone?
Yeah, if the result is recruiting and hiring and onboarding a salesperson, that can happen in 60 days, or even sooner. A lot of it is kind of based on the company, right? And then being persistent and staying on top of the hiring process, if you will, and the building process.
Right. Yeah. So what kind of an investment does it take for someone? Let's give an example of who would be an ideal business for this. What are they doing revenue-wise right now? And what kind of an investment does it take for them to be, for them to expect to make before this sales team start delivering profitability or delivering sales?
Yeah, good question. So the companies that I've typically worked with from a revenue standpoint are anywhere from like $1 million to about $5 million. Now I do have a company I'm talking to that's closer to 10 million, and they don't have a sales force at this time. They've just kind of grown organically. But I really feel my sweet spot's probably between 1 and 5 million. That's typically been the companies that I've worked with. Now, as far as a return, that's been a little difficult to put my finger on because industries are different, right? Selling a healthcare SaaS product that has like a 12-month, buying cycle is a little different than like a local manufacturer here that almost turns out widgets, if you will, right? And they're able to. There's a lot of people in the market, so I think I wish I could give you a really great answer to say like, all right, hey, from day 0 when you start working with me to day 90 you're going to have your first sale, but that always hasn't been the case.
Right. And that's this is why when I say this about focusing on the result kind of thing is the result versus the activity is a completely different thing, and it helps you really get clarity on your messaging, right? And who you're selecting. Because if I say to you that, how much do you charge for this service? Like, how much is this package that you offer?
Yeah. So for me to do it in person, I traditionally charged $8,000. Now, as I look to launch the like more online program, I'm looking at a lesser rate between I think probably $1,000 and $4,000.
Okay. So when you look at this, that somebody has a $1 million to $5 million company and they meet you or they come into contact with you, you're saying, give me $8,000 and I'll take you through this process and get what are you delivering for that $8,000? You're delivering how long am I going to work with you and what's going to happen? Like, when do you consider that complete?
Yeah, so for that product, right, that's me going into their organization, really getting an understanding of what their current sales process is and putting together a sales playbook, right, that they can really scale, right? If the CEO is hit by the milk truck the next day, right, there's actually some sort of sales process for them to go off of. And then as we loop that into the recruiting and the onboarding and the actual bringing a salesperson on, that usually takes about 3 to 4 months.
Okay. And so at the end of that, I've got a salesperson or 2 salespeople. What do you normally recommend for people? Just one salesperson in the field.
Yeah, I usually like starting off with 2, but some companies do the budget, and just to try to test it, they usually start with 1.
Yeah, and what would I have to expect? What would you advise people to budget? How do you walk through the economics of this with someone?
Yeah, so usually it looks like there's a base salary, and again, this is for most companies. There's a base salary element.
This is very helpful. So
yeah, no problem. So usually there's a base element, anywhere from $30,000 to $45,000 has typically been the base amount I've seen. Now, if you're in San Francisco or one of your more populated areas, that base is tending to be higher just based off of cost of living, things like that.
Yeah.
And then there's usually a compensation. There's a variable compensation package, right? Commonly known as a commission. And based on the amount of responsibility that salesperson's going to have in their impact and in their influence of the sale, the scale of the commission can change. So, most companies, they find themselves between 5 and 15% of a variable compensation of either like the first year, like of that product, if it's a software, right? The setup.
Yeah.
And then the first year, like maintenance usually is what it looks like. Or with some companies, if it's a product, let's say it's a $10,000 widget. All right, sold the $10,000 widget, and then they take 15% of that or 10% of that. That's typically how it's gone.
Yeah. Okay. And so that's if somebody's doing, so if they add $1 million in sales, that they're going to get their $30,000 base plus $150,000 for total compensation, maybe $180,000 on that. Is that the way?
Correct.
That's how it kind of works out. And so what the business owner gets is they get the $1 million extra sales. Hopefully their margins are big enough to accommodate a 15% commission and base salary, and everybody's happy.
Yes.
Okay. So, and then at the 90-day, 3 or 4 month mark, when somebody's off to the races, they're up and running, are you training the sales person to be successful, or is your training about training the company to get a salesperson on board that they can train in their methodology to get go out and make sales?
Good question. And in that $8,000 package, I'll do the initial training. And so I'll walk them through the sales system that I've developed throughout my time in sales. And so that's what I'll start them off with. And then there can be ongoing coaching. And
gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay. And is that so it's interesting then. So you would say, like, after 3 or 4 months, they're kind of up and going, they've made their first things, then you shake hands, everybody's done, they've completed this $8,000 thing, and then you're on to the next one.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to. I would like to really move to an element, and in 1 or 2 customers I have, where it's ongoing coaching, either for the salesperson or the salesperson and the entrepreneur, the CEO, to turn it into what I call like a sales-driven organization. Like, it's good we've got the salesperson, but how do we keep that momentum? How does the whole business get behind that?
I gotcha. Perfect. And so what kind of resistance do people have? Is there any resistance when you approach the companies to share what you do?
Yeah, I think the main resistance that I've been getting is, all right, well, show me the 100 or 200 past clients that you have, right? Or hey, you've only been
Right.
doing this for a while. Like, what do you know about this? So I
Right.
think that's been some of the major resistance that I've had to get over.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, just recently, and then just having enough prospects and for me, self-milking, my own cow, I guess, and trying to keep my prospects up and that bucket's full as well, I guess.
Yeah, you need a salesperson.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like, right?
Oh, that's so funny. It's great, isn't it? Oh, that's great.
What about what's with the cobbler's kids have the horseshoes?
No shoes. That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Very funny. So yeah, part of the reason, when I ask that about, when would you, what would you do if you only got paid if they get the result, is that part of the thing that is the challenge with doing, coaching and consulting packages like this that are not necessarily attached to an ROI initially, like for the thing to be complete, is that your goals are often not in alignment with the company, right? By that I mean we have a lot of people. I had a perfect example of it at the I Love Marketing conference that Joe and I did. One of them. Somebody stood up. They were a SEO company, and SEO companies are like this could have been any SEO company, because this is exactly how that model works. Is that they were doing SEO for dentists. They've narrowed their focus. They work with dental teams, dental offices, and they promise to get you, on page one of Google, and increase your rankings, right? So that they're all about, let's get you ranked, and so you show up on Google. And their measure of success is when they've done that, they've reached that activity, right? Or they've reached that outcome. But the dentist is sitting in his office there, and when the SEO company calls to say, ta-da, we did it, congratulations, you're number one, we did it, was great, all these months of work that we did are finally paying off, you're number one, you're on the first page of Google for all these search terms, and the dentist is looking at his chair, and there's nobody new in his chair yet. He's not as excited about what's happened as the SEO company, right? Because they're measuring that we completed our portion here, and it's been great working with you. Would you give us a testimonial kind of thing, right? Because they feel like they're complete now, or that somebody's going to continue to pay to keep the rankings up, right? Now, the dentist's goal and the SEO company's goal are not in absolute alignment there, right? And what I'm saying about any kind of service provider like that, where it's not seen all the way through, is that you're celebrating too early, kind of thing. So if somebody, if you look at it, that if your terminal, your end of the process is that the salesperson is up and running and out making sales calls, that's not completely the what the business owner is celebrating. Yeah, because for them, they've spent $8,000 plus their, if they're at, $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 a month now committed for the for the salesperson
Yeah.
as they're doing. So they're, 15,000, 20,000, if it's 30, 60 days kind of thing in, that they've got $20,000 invested in getting the sales team up and running there. You can see how that might be a different thing. And so that's where I just wanted to get a tone of where your focus is, whether if that comes up in the companies that you're working with, or whether you've celebrated that, listen, we create like these wildly profitable sales teams for people, and you're confident enough that you could will definitely get more money for taking it all the way through, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just think about that, like, is that an opportunity, right? Rather than showing somebody how to do something, to just, do it for them in a lot of ways, or help them, find the person.
Yeah. Like
so
the
you're
results
plugging
in advance
in.
almost,
That you're plugging in almost. And I always like to, have this conversation to see whether, how to, whether you'd at that confidence level be able to deliver the result, just so you know what you've actually got,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's a little bit of a gut check moment for me, to be honest with you, Dean, but
yes.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly think so.
That's the thing, is that I say it's a clarifying question, but when you first hear it, it's actually a terrifying question, because now you start to think, okay, what would I do if I only got paid if they get the result? Like, ultimately, you're still responsible for delivering the result. You still have to either convince people that you can get the result, or you have to be able to actually get the result.
Yeah. Huh.
And what I've found is that sometimes it's actually less expensive to get the result for somebody than it is to convince them to give you money to get the result.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, you probably spend a lot of your time trying to convince people that this is the right thing. You have to show them, and, just like you said, they might ask, show me the last 100 people that you worked with, or these are all questions that give you clues that what they're interested in is, what is this going to actually return for me? That's the only reason they're doing it. The only reason they're doing it is to multiply the money. And they just want to know reasonably, how long is it going to take for me to get an ROI on this? Now, what that forces you to do, or allows you to do, depending on how you look at it, is that profit activator number one that we talk about is select a single target market. Now, when I ask the question of what would you do if you only got paid if they get the result, what that is allowing you to do is to say, well, if I was only going to, it's a chance for you to really like flex your capabilities. Like, I find that people at this stage, and you probably are in this thing, you have this fire hydrant worth of value, that knowledge and abilities that you have pent up after all these years of doing this. And you're often forced to meter it out through a garden hose of what somebody's willing to pay for it, right? That the limitation is that you have to figure out, well, how can I throttle it down so that for $1,000 or $3,000 I can get this, right? That's the
exactly.
frustration, right? Is that you feel
Totally.
like that. Yeah. Now, this was really fascinating to me because I have been talking about this for years. I don't know whether you heard the episode on I Love Marketing that we talked about there was what if you only got paid for getting results. Now, do you know who Charles Koch is?
Yeah.
From the Koch brothers, right? David just died recently. So I knew who he was and I knew they were rich, and I didn't know enough really about them, but turns out he's the head of the largest privately held company in the world, over $100 billion. And they grew it from he grew up sort of well off. His father started the company, and when he took over in the 60s, it was worth $21 million. And they've grown it 5,000 fold since he took over in 1961. But I heard him talking about how they did it and the way that he approaches business, which is fascinating to me. He said that they took an approach, and this is what he advocates, is they started developing capabilities and skills to produce results for other people. Now, that's an interesting thing, that the whole purpose of what they were doing was to develop their skill to deliver results for people, basically, right? And then to seek out partners, the best partners, to deploy that skill, that capability, that ability to get a result on their behalf and share in the result that you're able to create. Now, that sounds exactly like what I'm talking about here, right? An example that he gave was when they were, a lot of their businesses early on were all petroleum based, like oil based. They would make things with oil. They would turn them into different textiles or different things. So one of the most important elements of their business was oil gathering. They had to get oil, right? And so they had to go and compete with other companies who want to buy the oil from the people who are pumping the oil. And what he discovered, this was like a magic thing for them, is that thinking from the other person's perspective, he knew that these oil companies that were digging or drilling for oil in a new oil field were hoping that they were going to discover oil. And if they did, that they would want to get that oil commercialized as fast as possible, right? They'd want to get it out of the ground and into the market. Now, it would be an advantage for the oil company if they already had a pipeline in place when they struck oil and if they struck oil. But what all of the companies would do, all the oil gathering companies that Charles was competing against, mostly what they would do is they would wait for an oil company to strike oil, and then they would all descend on them and say, let us build the pipeline. We'll build the pipeline. They put all these bids in, and everybody's competing to get this oil contract, right?
No differentiation.
What he did was he went to the oil companies as they were drilling, and he said, I know that when you strike oil there, you're going to want to get it out as fast as possible. Let us build a pipeline for you now while you're drilling. We'll pay for it. We'll do the pipeline for you. And if you do strike oil, would you sell the oil to us? And there was zero resistance to that because they knew it would be an advantage, and they're not paying to build the pipeline while they're trying to figure out if there's going to be oil there. And that was like the rocket fuel for them, that they were able to get, in with these oil companies at the ground floor. And then what would happen was, as soon as they would strike oil, then these guys have already got the pipeline built. They're going, and all these other oil companies would come and say, oh, well, let us do it, and we'll do it for cheaper than they're doing it. And of course, the oil companies would say, no, we're good, because they would appreciate what Charles and his company would do for them, which is to invest along with them in the success. And, you think about it, these oil companies are not just kind of drilling for oil willy-nilly. I mean, they've put a lot of money and a lot of there's a lot of stuff that goes into, we're going to drill for oil here, all the geological studies, everything that they've done, plus the investment that they're spending to go down that path. So they're just aligning their goals completely with the oil company. We're in this with you, right? If you strike oil, we're all going to win. So I say that just as a provocation to think for you of what is the thing. Often, and I get the sense you really do, you want to help people. You know how much of an impact it can make. You've figured out some things, and you really can help people. And sometimes the biggest challenge is trying to convince them that you can help them and do it in a way that is affordable for them. Whereas what I ask is, what would you do if they would get out of the way and just let you do what you're capable of? Often you don't get to do what you're capable of because you have to meter it with what they're willing to pay for. So the gap of standing in the way of actually getting the result is something different, that you're both losing out in that way.
Yeah, the disservice.
Just the thought, that's the thing. So what you do, and when I say that to people, then there's a difference between what I say of select a single target market versus what most companies are doing, most service providers are doing, is they're trying to cast a wide net so that they are selected by as wide a possible net as they can, because they're hoping to be selected. You're hoping that somebody's going to select you to help them. So you don't want to limit yourself to the number of people who can select you. That's not what it's about. It's about you selecting the ideal prospect that that you can have the biggest impact on.
Wow, that's powerful, Dean. That is really good.
It is really powerful, and that's the thing that is that's why I'll start with that, so that because I think that you've probably got better than $8,000 capabilities.
Yeah.
If you took it and you said, instead of what you can do in the first 90 days to get somebody up and running and on the go, what if you took your framework and said, what would you be capable of in the first year with somebody, right? What would that arc look like, of getting up and running and for the company,
Yeah.
Excuse me. maybe give me some thought about what have you observed. You started in November of last year.
Yep.
So, and you started with one company.
Correct.
So we're coming up on a year almost, right? 10 months for those. What's happened with that one company? Like how are they doing, and what has their ROI journey been?
Well, they're doing incredible. Their sales team has been, I would say, transformed. They've been able to really grow their results. The sales team is closing more deals than ever before. They're closing bigger deals than ever before. And the sales system that we put in place, they're able to reach out to a lot more people. So they've got a lot more opportunity coming in. Where before it was primarily based on like what trade shows they went on. And still a large part of that is they generate a lot of leads from trade shows and from, online submittals. But now they're creating this portion of the business where they're able to generate their own sales, their own contacts, their own prospects and nurture them through. So it's been really powerful for them. They've had just a great year.
I love it. So, if you were to imagine that the, one of the simple, if you had some infographic that shows like a case study of that, I'm a big believer in, sometimes a picture says 1,000 words, right? That if you were to think about your the process here, if you were to draw just a simple graph with a X, not an axis, but up the left side to show revenue, right? Money, and then put the months of the year, so November, December, January, February, March, April, May, all the way to September now across going from left to right. And you use red dots to indicate how much money they spent implementing this program so far, right? Like when you say when they hire, 2 salespeople, that what are they out of pocket on this? So they paid you $8,000. They paid $2,500 each to 2 salespeople. So that's $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 as it goes, right? Across the months, the cumulative spend of how much they're spending. So if they paid you $8,000 in November, do they pay you first, or they pay you at the end?
They pay me first.
Okay, so they paid you $8,000. So the first entry is $8,000, and then how long did it take till they hired their first sales person?
Let's say 90 days.
Okay, so that $8,000 stays stable. They've only invested the $8,000 in November, December, January, February. It stays straight line right across. Then in March, did they hire 1 or 2 salespeople?
Okay, I'm following.
How many did they hire, 1 or 2?
They had individuals already in place at that time, and it was really just me working with them to almost the latter half of how do we scale their sales team and grow the result. We didn't have to hire in that case.
Okay, perfect. So then you start to look at where did the first results of the impact of you show up, right? This is where, when you start to say now that the baseline of sales was established and the improvement that has come because of working with you, you start to show them that $8,000 that they spent, in November of last year has resulted in how much of an increase in sales over the first year, would you say?
I would have to go through it, but no, I don't track that right now, and I really need to after this conversation. But I'm pretty comfortable in saying 100,000 easy.
Okay. So they got a, 12 to 1, 12 and a half to 1 return on investment with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's a really good ROI for a business owner. If they spent money, if you told them, if your offer was, um, give me $8,000 and in 1 year, I'm going to give you $100,000. If that was the offer.
Yeah, I would take that.
Right. It's a pretty good offer, right? So that's the thing where when you've got that um, ability to show, it's all about ROI when you're talking about the business relationship like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can tell. I need to do a much better job of tracking and focusing and then speaking to that.
Yeah. Because then that makes it easier, right? Now, could you have even done, are you still doing work with that company, or did you do ongoing work in addition to the $8,000 that they paid?
Yeah, definitely. I'm doing ongoing. They're like in almost like a monthly coaching program where every month or every week or two, I'm meeting with their actual sales team. We're working through their hurdles and their wins, and really trying to just get them to produce at the highest level possible.
That's awesome. And how much do you charge for the ongoing?
$1,500 to $2,000 a month.
Okay, great. So when you look at that, it's like you're showing the ROI on this, and year after year after year, it's like building on top of it, because a lot of these sales that they're yourself, the cycle or the impact of what they're doing now is really just the surface of what's going to come from that, but your ability to identify specifically how you're affecting the bottom line and creating the metrics that allow you to keep track of it and demonstrate it are going to be the absolute key to scaling this, because if you set up, I talk about, proprietary metrics, that if you have metrics that you measure, that you name, that you can use as a diagnostic tool for companies when you go into them. Will, and then you show that you're able to affect that number. That's a big thing.
Yeah, and that's what people want. They want that result, not everything in between.
That's exactly right. They want the result. They don't. It's not about the training per se that they want. The only reason they want the training is because they perceive that that's going to get them to the result. But they have to be able to connect all the dots.
Yeah. And help me connect the dot or two, Dean. The best companies that you've seen implement a model like this, I mean, then do they charge like a portion of the increased revenue, or help me connect the dot or two on the actual implementation?
You could.
I think this is
a
absolutely fascinating idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can charge a premium price for this, because you're taking all the risk, It goes back, like there was, in the 1800s, there was this guy, Cyrus McCormick, who invented the reaper, the mechanical reaper. And it was a revolution, in the 1830s. It allowed one farmer to do the work of 14 men. But it was expensive, and the farmers couldn't afford it, right?
Sure.
And what Cyrus said was, okay, I see the situation here is, let me give you the reaper to use for the season, and you pay me from the harvest.
Huh. Okay.
So he's saying, go ahead, I've got the machine that you need to make the extra money, And better, I should wait for the money than you wait for the machine to help you get more money, right? That's essentially what he was saying. And that paved the way for the reaper to, make its way all through the country, taking over as the new norm for farming. So you've got your Cyrus McCormick, you've got the reaper, you've got the sales reaper, the model, the system, the procedure, the trainings that can allow one salesperson to do the job of 14 salespeople, or I mean, that's essentially the thing I'm saying. You are a multiplier. You're a multiplier, and sometimes the biggest obstacle is that is the upfront money to get that going.
Yeah, that's totally true. I've seen that in a couple cases. Yeah, that's totally true.
Yeah. And so now if you've got these capabilities, now the thing is that you look for, and you start to be the best in the world at this. You focus on get better and better and better at it. And now you are doing the selecting. You select the target market that is the best place for you to capitalize on your capabilities at their best, not metered out. That you're pushing yourself.
That sounds like a lot more fun.
That you get bigger and bigger and bigger opportunities because you're betting along with the company on your ability to deliver the result. They can, you're along with them being a steward of their investment in hiring the salespeople and doing the, getting everything up and running, but you've got an opportunity to win along with them,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was awesome.
It's exciting when you start to think that way, you start to think like, if you say that, what kind of companies would be the very best opportunity for you?
Yeah, I mean, companies that want to go from like 3 salespeople to like 100 within the next year or two, right? These fast growing companies, I'm thinking like ones that are primarily in the software space, that they're just going to scale, and like, I want to be there for that. I want to be able to help them go through that. I've been there. I can help them with that. I think that's where I get the best results from.
Yeah. And if you think about, the real thing is that you're able to get them to profitability and get to the result, in 6 months or whatever it is, say, that all you're really doing is you're just kind of, let's get on to the journey, and then we can start getting the result there,
Yeah. Yeah. We're just focusing on, right, it's what I think Bill Parcells says, show me the baby. I don't care about the labor. Like, show like what's the end result and focus on that end result.
That's awesome. That's exactly it. Show me the baby.
Yeah, no one cares about the labor, right? And that's what I've been focused on, is the nuances of the training and the day by day. When I should just be focused on, how can we get you a 7-figure sales team, and as quickly as possible.
That's exactly it. The bouncing 7-figure, the happy, healthy 7-figure sales team. not how can we train you in the breathing, and let me show you our delivery room and all this stuff, right? That's really, nobody wants that. Let's go beyond that to the baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that is so good, Dean. It's amazing how many shows I've listened to where there's been pieces of this advice I've heard before, but man, it's not until you actually like hear it through your own, in the lens of your business, where it's really becoming a lot more very clear to me now.
I agree. Well, that was fun. That went fast.
Oh, that was a blast.
Yeah. Well, will you stay in touch and let me know what you decide from that, because I know you're going to listen back now. I know in this kind of thing, your mind is going off into a thought coma while I was saying things, and so you're going to listen back and you'll hear it, even differently again, listening to it again. And I'd love to see what what it stimulates for you.
Yeah, I definitely will, Dean. I definitely will follow up with you on what the path is. I mean, the immediate thing that I want to investigate is, and maybe this is my ego or this is just me being very vulnerable with you. It's just, all right, so how can I get paid for this, right? And I think I may have to turn that a little bit to say, all right, how can I get the best result? And then worry about like the tactics of like, well, when does the invoice get sent and all that other minutia that I should be focusing on? How can I just get the result now?
Yep, get the oil flowing.
Get the oil flowing.
Yeah, that's really what it's going to be. So, yeah, I'm super excited about that. That was
thank you, Dean.
A fun one.
This was awesome.
Mark.
Thank you, Dean. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great weekend as well.
Okay, you too. I'll talk to you soon.
See you, Dean. Bye.
Bye. And there we have it. That was a great conversation. I really love to see the lights come on and to see the opportunity. I mean, what I really see among people, when we have this conversation about focusing on the results for people, is that it feels so good to think that you're able to give your 100%, give your best effort. And it's easy to do that when you are, when your goal is in alignment with your client's goal, so that you're both winning at the as things progress. So I really love to see how that happens, and I can't wait to see how it unfolds for Mark. Now, if you want to see how the 8 profit activators are working in your business right now, go to profitactivatorscore.com and you can take our Profit Activator scorecard. You can see where each of the 8 profit activators are either growing or slowing your business right now. And if you want to continue the conversation here, maybe even be a guest on the show, you can go to More Cheese Less Whiskers.com, and you can download a copy of the More Cheese Less Whiskers book. And if you want to be a guest on the show, just click on the Be a Guest link, and maybe we can get together and hatch some evil schemes for your business. So that's it for this week. Have a great week. I will talk to you next time.